Today we officially present the new Ferrari 296 GTB, 296 GTB, the new two-seater mid-rear engine model that enter in the Ferrari range. The name is already representing one of the key characteristics of this car, which is the engine. In fact, the 29 stands for 2900, which is the engine displacement, plus the 6, which is the 6-cylinder. GTB stands for Gran Turismo Berlinetta, which is frequently used in the history of Ferrari. Now, it is already clear that it is a V6. Yes, this is the first time ever in the history of the company that we use a V6 engine on a road car carrying the Ferrari badge, even though the V6 has been already used in the history of Ferrari, mainly in racing and on one of the most iconic cars of the past, which is the Dino. The position of this car is peculiar. It is consistent with our philosophy, which is summarized by the sentence, different Ferraris for different Ferraristi and different moment. It means that this car is not replacing any other model in the Ferrari product range, but is creating his own positioning, his own niche, which is designed in order to deliver the highest fun to drive, the highest emotion to drive. And in order to achieve that, we have been working on several elements of the car, mainly the engine, as I was mentioning, the V6 engine, which is combined with an electric component, reaching the level of 830 horsepower. And the specificity of this engine is that you can drive in full electric mode, up to 25 kilometers, and the combination of the thermic engine and the electric engine is giving the great sensation, which is almost reducing to zero the turbo lag, hence having an immediate response to the throttle. So the engine is one of the key elements. The second element we have been working on is all the setup of the electronic control that contribute to the vehicle dynamics. Again, increasing the sensation of connection of the driver with the car. And last but not least, the dimension of the car. We have been reducing the dimension. The car is much more compact, and we have been working on the wheelbase, reducing it as much as possible. All these three elements combined deliver what we are mentioning is the key position of this car, that is the emotion, the fun to drive, the smile when you're driving the car. But this is a Ferrari, and fun to drive is one of the key components. But there is another one which is equally important, which is the performance. Ferrari is a sport car manufacturer, and every single Ferrari we put in the market has a clear racing DNA. So performance is part of the emotion. And in this case, the car is giving great emotion also in terms of performance. 0-100 in less than 3 seconds, 2.9. 0-200 in 7.3 seconds. All KPIs, all elements that show that this is a true Ferrari able to deliver great performance and as much as possible emotion to drive.
Emozioni di guida, fun to drive. This was the key target developing the 296 GTB. People state it's not possible to measure and to design fun to drive. But this is not the truth. The truth is we can. So what are the 3 ingredients to solve this secret? First, sound. Second, perceived acceleration. And third, go-kart feeling. So, let's try. The first point is the sound. The sound has to follow 2 principles. One is that with the acceleration and higher revs, the volume has to increase. And the second point is that not only the volume, but also the quality of the sound has to change. With low revs, we have low frequencies, and with higher revs, we have high frequencies. And this gives this typical Ferrari sound. We call it music because this is really a very, very emotional element of driving a Ferrari. But now, let's try to make an acceleration and listen to the sound of the 296 GTB. was this? We worked a lot on the engine architecture, on the combustion, and on the exhaust system to create this magnificent sound. The second element is perceived acceleration. Not acceleration like 0 to 100, and you can measure it. This is what you can feel in your stomach, in your body, if you put the pedal to the metal. And obviously the core for that is the powertrain. The core of this powertrain is a V6 with a 120-degree hot V layout, which allowed us to achieve an extremely compact body and introduce an electric engine without compromising the dimensions of the car. This engine has 2.9 liters displacement, 663 horsepower, and this leads us to the best automotive specific power output, 221 horsepower per liter. This is world record without turbo lag. We combine this V6 engine with an electric motor, and in total we have on this car 830 horsepower. And the powertrain is completed by an 8-speed double-clutch transmission gearbox, which has the fastest gear changes in the market. The electric motor is powered by a battery with the best specific power-weight ratio in the automotive industry, and this allows us to have a 25-kilometer electric range. The third element for fun to drive is the go-kart feeling. That means that every command of the driver has to lead to a direct, immediate reaction of the car. We have three elements worked on this car, which was first the weight. So reduce the weight as much as we can, and we reached 1.77 kilogram per horsepower. The second element is inertia. The wheelbase is 50 millimeters shorter than on the F8. This leads to less inertia and more agility of the car. And the third element, and here we have a world premiere, is a new sensor with 6 sensors, which allows us to control better the car and to develop a new ABS Evo system. This reduces the brake distance by almost 10%, but obviously a Ferrari can't be only fun to drive. To give you only two numbers, from 0 to 100 in 2.9 seconds and from 0 to 200 in 7.3 seconds. You see, best-in-class performance with absolute fun to drive.
The design of the Ferrari 296 GTB redefines the identity of the mid-rear engine two-seater Berlinetta, giving the car an extremely compact line with a modern original stance that instantly underscores its sporty character. Come with me, I'll tell you more.
Its proportions are completely different. The wheelbase was shortened to underscore the car's agility, allowing us to give the car an extremely light, sleek, compact architecture that is also spare and clean, like a moving sculpture. The cabin is compact and wraps around the occupants, in part thanks to the vertical rear screen. It develops along a flying bridge theme, culminating in the powerful muscle of the rear wings, which is a modern interpretation of the signature styling cues from the Ferrari DNA, seen on the 250 LM, for example. The design of the rear is really original and centers around the cam tail, which sports the newly designed jewel-like tail lights that are perfectly integrated with the active spoiler, which is invisible when not deployed. The finishing touch to the rear comes from the novel new central tailpipe, which not only completes the design of the rear, but also underlines its character. The front of the car is extremely clean and spare. The new headlights stand out in particular because they are a modern interpretation of the teardrop headlights of the past. In this case, they are paired with air intake for the brakes. The wide central grille hides the radiators, while lower down there is a kind of suspended wing, which is a smaller version of those already seen in Formula One. The cockpit adopts the same pure sporting aesthetic language as the exterior and is designed around the driver. The dashboard architecture creates a clearly defined instrument binnacle angled towards the driver and carved out of a deep cleft into the dash trim, from which it emerges along with the steering wheel and all digital instruments. A modern version of the classic H-gate, the so-called cancelletto, dominates the center console that is another link with the Marque's DNA, but with a very modern and contemporary twist. The cabin trim is an exclusive example of Italian leather craftsmanship and also includes noble technical materials like metal and carbon fiber for the functional components. Even the seats have been completely redesigned in order to give the entire cockpit a very modern and futuristic touch. To keep weight to an absolute minimum, we have also redesigned the racing seats using a carbon fiber shell. When we were designing the 296 GTB, we strove to achieve absolute formal purity and a refined yet essential aesthetic. And the final result is the perfect marriage between sportiness and elegance.